You've been told if you keep your head down, work hard, and prove yourself, recognition, promotions, and opportunities will come. But let's be honest, that's just not true. This is Lead Without Limits, a podcast for professionals in multifamily and beyond who are ready to stop second-guessing themselves. Because leadership isn't just about titles or tactical skills. Yes, we'll cover those here, but real leadership starts from within. It's about changing the beliefs and behaviors that have kept you playing small and rewiring the thought patterns holding you back. I'm Shanenn Bryant, a confidence and pattern expert, and this is the space where we talk real growth, real change, and maybe have a little workday humor along the way. This episode is brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, delivering the latest news, ideas, and inspiration across the multifamily sector. If you're ready to lead without fear, lead without doubt, and lead without limits, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Stepping into a leadership role, especially in the middle of an organization, comes with both opportunity and responsibility. You're no longer just executing plans. You're shaping culture, influencing direction, and bridging the gap between strategy and day-to-day impact. And my guest today probably needs no introduction. Amber Fields believes that mid-level leaders are the unsung heroes of company culture. As the Chief Culture Officer and partner at TrueU, she has been instrumental in guiding businesses and nonprofits to become more efficient, competitive, and innovative by placing people at the center of their strategy. So I am so happy to have the Queen of Culture here to share how mid-level managers can shape culture. So welcome, Amber.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm really excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here as well. And, I guess just to kick it off, because we always hear that leadership comes from the top down. So leadership, okay. But our culture is created whether we're it's there, right?
Yeah.
So if I were a mid-level manager, how could I possibly influence culture?
Yeah. I think the first thing to know, I do still believe that culture is a top-down approach. I believe that the executives are the visionaries for creating what culture should look like. They've got to have a real clear purpose, mission, vision, values, and they've got to communicate that well. But oftentimes we get busy. We get going. We're running a million miles an hour. We're chasing after amazing clients and taking care of our employees. And sometimes it can get lost in the midst. And so I think it's important for mid-level managers to know that it is also their responsibility to have a clear understanding of what they believe the culture to be and have an understanding of what's my role, how do I impact with my own influence and my own leadership, and making sure that they're communicating that down, but also communicating it back up. So they are the foundation, the executors of culture, and just making sure that there's clear and concise communication, because it's not happening oftentimes because we're just busy doing all the things.
Well, yeah. And I think sometimes that doesn't get necessarily shared. So if I'm a new employee in an organization, oftentimes I don't hear about this is the vision for our culture. This is how we want to be.
Yeah.
So if I've never heard it, what are some things I can do to go, okay, and I know that I'm a driver of this and I want to be. What do I do in that situation?
You sit down with your superiors and have the conversation. What is our culture here? I was just on a call with someone who was asking me about a company that's one of our member companies who's hiring a chief people officer. And she said, I want to interview the company before I interview the company. She said, tell me what your experience has been working with them. What is their culture like from a partner's perspective? And I thought that's brilliant, because she's doing her homework. She wants to know what it's like from an outsider's perspective on culture. And I think it's the same. We should be asking these questions when we are interviewing for new companies. Articulate for me what your culture looks and feels like. What do your employees currently say about the culture? And just getting clarity, going and asking for this information. I know a lot of times people will go to HR and say, hey, what do you define culture as? And
Right.
HR is very much a pivotal part and piece of culture building. They're the ones that are kind of building the processes, making sure that it is a part of the talent attraction, being able to articulate that out to social media and job postings and things like that, while also making sure that it's a part of the onboarding. But it's not up to them to make sure that it stays that way, right? That it is lived out every single day, because that would be a huge responsibility. And they're just not with the people every day. Those mid-level
Right.
managers are. And so I
Right.
would say, go talk to your superiors, go talk to the leadership team and ask the question, how do you define culture around here? What are the key words? What are our core values? What is our vision? What is our mission? Why do we do what we do? And how can I play a part in that?
Hmm. That's so good too, because a lot of times when we're interviewing for positions, we think about like, what are their health benefits? How much are they going to pay me?
Yeah.
Now, is it remote work? Is it in office? All of those things. And we don't think about the culture of the company. And does that
Mhm.
match up with me and align with my own stance and how I want to be in the world too?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, what do you see some mistakes that companies are making when it comes to culture?
hmm Yeah. They are not hiring for culture. They are not hiring for the culture fit. So they're looking only at, are they capable? Do they have past experience? You also have to make sure that they are going to be a good culture fit for your people, that they have emotional intelligence, that they have some business acumen, that they can, that they're a team player. And it's hard. I get it. It's really hard to figure those things out early on as you're building that relationship, but you got to ask the questions. And
Mm,
I believe that they keep people too long. Once they figure out that they are not a culture fit, they don't begin the documentation process early enough to let them go. And so we hang on to people too long. And there could be a myriad of reasons, right?
right.
That's a hard job to fill, uh, it, for so many reasons. They hang
Yeah.
on to them for a long time. It doesn't necessarily have to be disciplinary, but if it's not looking good, you got to coach them up or you got to coach them out. And so
Mm-hmm.
to that end, and you'll get this from a learning and development perspective, are we investing in them the way that they need to be invested in to help them achieve better in their roles? Are you creating individual development plans? A person does not always have the cultural fit, the experience, leadership development. And so when you bring them into the organization, what are the areas of growth? And do you have a plan to help them achieve that? So
Mm-hmm.
investing in their people, I think, is one of the areas where is often misstepped. We have an unrealistic expectation for this person, and then you set them up to fail without giving them a chance to really prove themselves or do the
Yeah,
work.
right. I can remember the day, way, way back in the day in the beginning, we used to be able to hire these unicorns, right? And it's just it's an impossibility almost at this point that
Yeah.
somebody's going to have every single thing. So making sure that this person aligns in that way. And then what are the top two or three other things? Because we can teach skills, we can do all of those other things. So, but
Yeah. I have
somebody
another
fitting
one.
into the culture is hard.
Yeah, I have another one too. I think performance management. A lot of companies get busy doing the work and they're not performance managing their teams appropriately. There's no process, and they're not teaching their mid-level managers. They don't have a process, let alone teaching the mid-level managers what the process is and creating that regulatory system inside the organization that is feedback for both the individual and for the company, providing feedback from a growth perspective, whether that's
Right.
weekly or biweekly one-on-ones, and then quarterly reviews or bi-yearly reviews, whatever that cadence is. You got to be able to receive and give feedback back to the person so that they know what they're doing well and they know what to fix. I always
Mm-hmm.
say people cannot grow if they do not know.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, it makes it difficult if they're not getting any of that feedback,
Mhm.
especially if you're seeing, oh, maybe this person isn't fitting into the culture.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, what do you recommend somebody do? So let's say I did my homework, I asked questions, I feel like this is a good fit, and now I'm not seeing that being carried out 100%, or okay, what I was told isn't really what's happening. Because I think that happens sometimes too.
Oh,
Like I was given this,
sure.
I was sold and
A
now it's
bill of
not happening.
goods.
Yeah.
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 I think that we choose to go to work every day in the places that we go to work to. It's a choice every day. We choose this place. And I have some leaders that are in my sphere of influence that come to me and say, I'm not in alignment with the leaders that I am working underneath, but I also feel it is my responsibility to protect the culture that I believe that it is. And so there's this layer of a place where they are building a subculture, good, bad, or indifferent. The culture, they're building it, they're doing it. And I think that you just have to take a look inside of your leading with influence, the reasons why you stay there, and for what your understanding of culture is, you do right by the people.
I love that. That's so good. I have seen you everywhere. You're such a busy person. And at the same time, I've seen over even the last, 5 years or so, just really, I mean, you really built the culture where you are and helped to develop that. So, what are some ways or some challenges that you faced when you were saying, hey, this is what, working with, I'm sure others, but this is what we want the culture to be here at True You. How did
Yeah.
you all do that?
Oh man, I love to reflect back on this story because it's one that I feel very privileged to be a part of. We took two companies that were operating in silos that were different. Mike Lance is the founder of both organizations. And the True You Culture Community came out of an organization, a large organization called Defenders. And when they were being acquired, and it's out of Indianapolis, when they were being acquired by ADT, True You was sitting out there and he was like, I don't want this to go away. We are doing really great work in helping companies grow their culture through the development of their people. And so when Mike sat down and said, I'm going to acquire this organization, bring it into the fold of the work that we're already doing in talent and culture strategy and fractional HR, but we need somebody to come in and lead this. And he just shared his vision with me. He was very clear about what he wanted the culture to be. I understood what the core values of our organization were. And it was also an opportunity for us to develop it together. So we had a lot of great conversations and some really hard ones, Shannon. There were some times where we had to go toe to toe, head to head in conflict and go, I don't see it that way. Okay, tell me more. Tell me why you don't see it that way, and vice versa. And so it has been, I always say, I was in the world of IT sales prior to this, and I was kind of the culture queen in all those different places. It was not official, but I believed in culture. I believed that that's how you got to retain the people. And it was simple. If I had turnover on the help desk, then they weren't going to be taking care of my clients. If we don't have any clients, we don't have a business. So I started going internally, supporting my team, taking them to lunch, giving them gift cards, shouting them out in meetings. Here's what you're doing well, giving them feedback when it wasn't working. How can we, and really joined them at the hip. The culture started to grow. And I wanted to be a part of that for other organizations. I wanted to be a pillar in their organization to really help them invest in their people. And so I always say this has been the best job that I've ever had. And it has. And it has been the hardest because I've had the most amount of growth going through, because we're a small company doing really big things. 20 people serving, 100 and some, 100 plus clients who come from different backgrounds, different verticals, different needs. And so just making sure you're achieving that while also maintaining your own house and maintaining your own culture.
Yeah.
And watching it grow and evolve. I sit here 4 years later and go, I did not know that it was going to turn into what it is today. And it's really exciting to see where it will even be in 4 years from now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's such an incredible story. And I know there's more to this too. I want to talk even prior to that. So we'll come back there. But as you were talking through that, I was thinking, if I am a manager and I know that, hey, this is the culture that has been set in place and this is how they want to uphold it,
How do I then share that or keep that going with my team that I supervise? Because maybe they are not always hearing it, of course, from the top. And it's my job, as you said, as like I can help with that. So how do I do that with my own employees that I supervise?
Yeah. Everything goes back to our values. So for us, so our values are integrated into our performance management system. So we measure based on what those core values are. We do core value shout outs in all of our team meetings throughout the week or through the month. Each week we meet and we saw this person do our core values are we learn, we innovate, we lead, we serve, and we are accountable. So anytime you see somebody doing any one of those things, we shout it out. You know, our team went to go do a serve project a couple weeks ago. And so, you know, we serve as an organization and we're being servant leaders and we want to call that out because our hearts are in the right place. And so it's about a consistent conversation, Shannon, but it is also about consistent setting a clear expectation, but then holding them accountable to those expectations because it's really easy because a lot of us don't want to have conflict. Managers are not equipped with the ability to have courageous conversations around the things that they're not doing well. We don't want to rock the apple cart. They're doing a really good job over here. I hate to get on them about this. No, it all. If you told them what they were expected to do in the beginning, they should expect to hear feedback that this isn't, that the outcome is not where it should be. And so we just get to have those conflict conversations and use it. It's good. Conflict has a bad rap.
Right.
I just think we get to be culture innovators inside of our communities to change that mindset because we cannot grow if we are not willing to take conflict head on. And I can tell you personally and professionally, while they have been really uncomfortable conversations, we are better people today. We are a better organization for our team members and for our clients because we took conflict head on and we are better for it. Our relationships are tighter. So that's what I would say. Set clear expectations, communicate it often, and hold people accountable to it.
Yeah, it makes it easier to have that conflict when everybody has the same, like this is still all of our goal, right? This is all of our mission. So yes, we might have conflict along the way, but we're all trying to get to that same place.
Yeah. And getting to a place where when there is conflict, you're not talking about the person, you're talking about the thing that happened, the situation at hand or the issue, right? We're not talking about you might have missed the mark or didn't hit the expectation or did something wrong, but it's not that it's about you. It's about the thing. So let's change the behavior or let's fix the thing and keep moving forward because it's not just about you. We operate together and we're all responsible for the outcome here.
Well, I love that. I love giving the shout outs to like when they're hitting one of those things, because we know too, it's really the way to get people to repeat those actions, right? Yeah. If we're celebrating them and saying, yes, that's it. That's how you do it. That's a good job. Then people are more likely to continue that behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
You also brought up feedback and the expectation of feedback and having those. And I agree with you that if that person expects that they're going to get feedback in their one-on-ones with you or the team meetings, then it just makes it easier to give that feedback because they're expecting it. And it's not such a like, oh, I can't believe I was called out today or however that's taken.
You got to be sensitive to what you say, how you say it, and where you say it. It's one of the hard lessons that I've had to learn because I was taught that you give feedback when it comes up, just give it. Because if you get too far away from it, it won't be relevant anymore. And I'm like, yes, and if you don't give feedback where it could embarrass somebody in front of somebody else. And what I have hopefully created within my team is that I will give feedback and I have an expectation that they give me feedback also. Because I, as a leader, am not getting it right all the time. And I need you to tell me when I'm coloring outside the lines. And it is hard for people to think, well, you're my leader. So why would no, I'm your leader because I have more experience than you. And because I am supposed to help pull you up that mountain to help you get to where I am. That does not mean that I have all the right answers and that I'm going to sit here and tell you what to do all the time.
Yes. I used to have a supervisor that would say, "Oh, I hope you're not expecting me to be perfect because that is not going to happen."
Not happening, friends.
Yeah,
Not
not
happening.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that this has been your hardest role, perhaps. But there's been a lot of growth in it. How did you end up talking about culture and leadership and being in this role? Like, what was happening for you when you stepped into this?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had worked for a myriad of companies with really bad cultures, Shannon, and I just thought, like, this cannot be the way of the world. One company I walked into, they're screaming matches, and it's just not the way that we talk to people. But that was that was kind of the expectation that was set. And before that, I worked for an organization that was huge, thousands of employees across the country. And even in their subcultures that they've created, I still knew what they were about from the top, and I could see how they operated even in these small subcultures. And it was a place where the culture was palpable. And you walk in and people were excited to see you. We had a lot of collaboration going on, great conversation. It just felt good. So I think you cannot appreciate a really great culture until you've had a bad one. So you have something to compare it to and understand the value in having and being responsible for creating. Because the other thing I will say, Shannon, is while it is up to the mid-level managers to enforce, everyone is responsible for culture. Everyone, from the top to the bottom, everyone plays a part in whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. The goal is to get us all rowing in the same direction, and everyone plays a part in that. And so previously, it caused a lot of trauma, workplace trauma for me. I was I was bringing some of that trauma into this new role. And my business partners were like, we didn't create this for you. So stop bringing it forward and having that with us because we didn't do that.
Right.
And I was like, ouch. Okay, sorry.
But this feels like what happens in a relationship sometimes. Like maybe I'm bringing my baggage over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's why I'm so passionate about the work that we do, Shannon, is because we are helping leaders right out of the gate. We have leadership programs that it's the Peter principle. People get promoted because they're really good at their jobs, but they are not given the appropriate tools to be really great leaders. So we're bridging that gap with the 3 different levels of classes that we have. And you're in there building community. You're learning how to be a better leader so that you can create better leaders, period. And when you give and I'm not saying they're going to get it right all the time, but at least they're set forth with self-awareness, emotional intelligence, really understanding what it means to lead self and removing ego while also having confidence at the same time. That's what, because leaders are humble, but they are also confident and competent, to not too much, obviously, but we know what we know. And we're also willing to go ask for help when we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think being confident in your decisions, like I've got to make this decision. I'm doing it with the best information that I have. And I feel confident that I'm making the best decision with what I know.
Yeah. The other thing that I will say about this role is, I finally got to marry up, and I know this doesn't happen for everybody, but I finally got to marry up passion, purpose, and serving. That's what I wanted to do. And I have been in roles where mentors or people that I looked up to or thought a lot of kind of talked down to me about my career. I was college educated and went to school to be a television news anchor, got a lot of flack for not following in that pathway because I was the first person in my family to go to college and I was paying for it myself. But I was on the air the day of 9/11 and it wrecked me. I did not want to do news after that. Simultaneously, I was getting married. My husband had 2 small children. And in order to be successful at that job, you had to move away because Indianapolis was top 25. I wasn't willing to sacrifice my family for my career at that time. And so I said, I'm going to do whatever job is required of me to take care of my family. And in a couple of years, I'll figure out what I'm supposed to be when I grow up. 10 years goes by super fast. And I'm like, oh no, I don't know what I want to be now.
I still know what I don't want to do, but
but I have this degree that allows for me to be able to communicate well, command an audience, bring a ton of energy to a room, things like that. But what role does that. And when somebody told me that you should be in sales, I laughed at them because I didn't want to do sales. I had been sold to previously and did not want to be in that role. And so it was some convincing to get me to even be willing to step into that role. But when they made it about servant leadership and they made it about the ability to solve problems and to help people get more out of life, to have more successful companies, that's where I was bought in. I was like, oh, I can do that. I'm gifted in that place. And I'm a genuinely curious person. And so I can go into companies and ask a lot of questions to see where the gaps are. And hopefully I can fill it or know somebody that can.
Yeah. What a great story. And, I'm curious I could guess, but I am curious when you were on air, 9/11, that hits, and you had spent all of this time and money to get to that place. Mm-hmm. What was it about it that you went, this is not for me. I can't do this?
Yeah. You don't have a ton of frontal cortex maturity at that time. However, I was like, I always say, thank God it was radio and not television, because I cried through every newscast. And I just thought, this is hard. And I don't know. Now, I will say I tried here in Indianapolis to do it because I felt guilty that I had an $80,000 degree. And I was like, I have to give it a try at least. So I did work at Fox 59. I worked at WLFI in Lafayette and Wish TV. So I've worked at a few places and tried it out for size, right? But I believe that I was gifted in a way to use that in another facet, not that. And so, and it was embarrassing, Shannon. It's the norm now for people to go to school and not use it. It's kind of normalized. But back then, if you're going to pay for something like that, you should probably, but at 18 years old, we don't have the expectation. Like, why do they have the expectation for us to know?
What we want to do with the rest of our life?
We don't spend our adolescent years leaning into what our natural gifts and talents are and the things that light our fire and what inspires us. We don't know those things at 18. So I worked really hard with my 5 kids to lean into what are your innate gifts and talents? Where are the areas where you thrive? That's not to say that you're not going to have to do things that you don't like to do. Can we lean into so you are inspired, so your fire is lit, so you're excited about the things you get to do, and then it makes the other things that you have to do not so hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we certainly weren't talking about culture and what are my values and looking for companies that match up with that. You're right. It was, I went to school for this. I have to get a job in this. Who's going to hire me to do it because I've got college loans to repay. Yeah. So that's really the focus. And we weren't looking for those things then. People weren't talking as much about culture.
Yeah. And come full circle, Shannon, I must have some sort of inclination of the gift that I have, because now I use it all the time. Public speaking, being on podcasts, communicating effectively to my clients, listening well, being able to say back what I heard. I mean, I believe that I have gotten to use it over the years. At the time, I couldn't see how, but it comes full circle. And now I feel like I get to use it all the time. And I'm so grateful.
Right. And in such a bigger way too, potentially.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation about culture. I always ask my guests to give us, a power move of the week. So for the person listening to the podcast, when it comes to culture, what's a power move that they could do this week?
I would ask yourself and ask your peers or your teammates, what is your interpretation of culture? What do you believe to be true about our culture here? And see what feedback you get from other people, see how it aligns to what the company says the culture is. And if it's undefined, because there's a lot of companies where it is undefined, and that's okay. You have one. It just may not be any pillars to it, but maybe you can go and create the culture that you want to, given the feedback that your employees are giving you from this exercise. It might be fun.
That's so good. Yeah. And especially if you're at a company that doesn't really have it defined, being a part of helping them define it. Like, hey, here's what people are saying. Is this what we want or not? How do we change this culture and reputation in a way? And you could be a part of that.
The other thing I would say, Shannon, on a personal note is, do you know what your core values are? They don't have to be the same as the company, but they do have to align. And a lot of people walk around not knowing what their own core values are, let alone if they could even be in alignment with the company core values.
So good.
Sit and think on that one.
Yeah. Like, oh, wait, when have I thought about that? Yeah. Amber Fields, thank you so much for being on Lead Without Limits and talking to us about culture. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Lead Without Limits and investing in what matters, you. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with a friend or colleague who might benefit as well. This podcast is brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living. I hope this moved you one step closer to lead without fear, lead without doubt, and lead without limits.